Animated Builder should be your go-to widget if you want to animate something on the screen, some part of your widget tree, because it's much more efficient than manually controlling it with state and re-rendering the entire widget tree, as I just explained in the last lecture. But for common things like changing the container dimensions or changing a container look in general, Flutter has an even better built-in widget. And that's the animated container. So let's use that instead of container, and let's therefore get rid of the animated builder. Just wanted to show this in cases where you have no better built-in widget, but here we do. So let's get rid of the animated builder here, have the animated container therefore. Now the child of our container, hence, is the form again. And with that, the question of course is, how does animated container work? Animated container has all the heavy lifting built in, so of efficiently running an animation, and it automatically transitions between changes in its configuration. So if you go back to the old height setup here, where we actually switch this when the off mode changes, we do the same here for the constraints, of course. So let me set min height here also to this dynamically calculated height. When you go back to that, animated container will not do the same the normal container does and make a hard switch between these values, but instead it will automatically detect that that value changed and will smoothly animate between the values. And that does not just work for height or width, but for things like padding and so on as well. Now, since the animated container controls the entire animation, you don't even need your own controller there, because it kicks off the animation and reverses it on its own, basically whenever these values change. And you just need to tell it over which duration it should animate. So you have to set up a duration. And here I'll again go for 300 milliseconds. And you can also configure a curve. And here, for example, you could use ease in. So to configure how that animation should look like and how long it should take. So for this, you don't need the animation controller, which we set up above. And you don't need the height animation. I'll still leave that here because we'll need it later, but for animated container, we don't need it. And of course, it's needless to say that if you want to animate a container, my suggestion would be that you use the built-in animated container because it's simply more efficient and does all the heavy lifting for you. Whoops. So with that, we have the same animation as before, as you can tell here, but now controlled by Flutter's built-in animated container widget.